Hey y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show.
Through this hub, we address 9 dimensions of wellness for our Eastside residents, offering classes in fitness, dance, yoga, arts and crafts, digital technology, games, community events, a community room, and health and resource coordination. These offices are offered free of charge to all Eastside residents who are asked to make a pledge of either $20 a year or 20 hours of community service. Through this hub also supports one of 4 outreach offices for the current representative for the 13th District, Rashida Tlaib. Posted behind me is a symbolic check representing a congressional project fund appropriation of $1,787,725, one of 10 projects funded for a total of $15,362,725. In addition to passing legislation and speaking on behalf of our residents, we appreciate direct support from whoever steps into the 13th District as a congressperson, supporting the people in our community.
All right, Brandon, want to talk a little bit about Detroit Action?
Great, thank you so much. So welcome candidates, welcome our members. Thanks folks for being here. I'm Brandon Snyder. I'm the co-executive director at Detroit Action. We are a grassroots member-led community-based organization building powerful working class Black and brown folks here in the Metro Detroit area. We are excited to dig in. First, we are excited to be in the Stoudemire with our dedicated to our friend Marlo Stoudemire, and also to be partnering with our friends at Eastside Community Network on this event. And so thanks y'all for coming, and I'm gonna pass it to my co-executive director, Jennifer.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Disla, co-executive director of Detroit Action. Excited to have this conversation today about the 13th District and looking to strengthen the district as we move along in the years to come. So I'll pass it back to Orlando.
All right. Hello, Detroit. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Stoudemire inside of Eastside Community Network. We are a content partner to BridgeDetroit.com, where I spend most of my days as the director of engagement. We are a news and engagement organization that seeks to tell stories related to the priorities that Detroiters themselves identify. We want to thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the east side of Detroit. We want you to go ahead and like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Today, we are happy to bring you the long-awaited Economic Justice 13th Congressional Candidate Forum Part 2. This forum is brought to you once again in partnership with Detroit Action and the Eastside Community Network. And the forum is being live streamed on Facebook and on Twitter. This forum will be moderated by myself, my co-host, Donna Givens-Davison, as well as Brandon and Jennifer. There is an audience here, and they have promised to remain silent throughout the duration of today's forum, except for right now. Please help us welcome the candidates for the 13th congressional seat in the United States House of Representatives, Sam Riddle and Martell Bivings. We should note that the other candidates that were invited to this forum, Sharon McPhail, Lori Rutledge, and Shree Tanadar, have all declined to be here.
Yes.
That was probably a good decision on their part.
Go ahead, Dan.
All right. I'm sorry. The parameters for today's forum are simple. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 2-minute opening remarks uninterrupted. We will direct questions to candidates, and they will have 90 seconds to respond. We will allow for 30-second rebuttals if a candidate makes a claim at another candidate if time permits. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for closing remarks uninterrupted. The candidates will answer a total of 12 questions each.
All right, so we have randomly pulled names to determine who gets to go first. And Sam, you have 2 minutes for your opening remarks.
Okay. Greetings, and again, much respect and love to the organization that put this on, this Eastside community-based organization. I've appeared in forums all over the world, literally, and I can tell you this is a very well put together event. And again, just thank you for hosting. My name is Sam Riddle. I'm the political director of the Michigan National Action Network. I've been a political media consultant for over 45 years, and I'm also a senior fellow with the internationally acclaimed anti-poverty think tank, the Pulse Institute, based right here in Detroit. I've lived in Lafayette Park, Detroit, for more than 15 years now. It is one of the prime real estate zones in the city of Detroit, on the east side, near east side also. But guess what? My neighborhood has become a killing zone. 2 days ago, 2 people were gunned down right on one of my running routes on Larned, on the very block that I wake up on and every day. Several weeks before that, 2 more individuals were gunned down, about 40 yards from where the last 2 were gunned down. And when I say gunned down, I mean murdered, killed. And I've got to tell you something. Here in Detroit and in the 13th Congressional District, we have one of the highest incidents of poverty anywhere in America. Those law and order types, the anti-gun folks, it's not going to be that simple. I still represent the family of Isaiah Shows, the only black student gunned down at Columbine, which was the first of the big school mass killings massacre. The last words Isaiah Shows heard before he was gunned down was, "Where is that little nigger?" Then they blew his heart out. I met with President Clinton, the First Lady, then Attorney General
Sam, we are
Janet
at time.
Reno.
Sam,
the reason I tell you
Sam,
that—
we are at time. We're going to ask that you respect the time.
Oh, is it
Martell,
2 minutes? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I apologize.
it's okay.
Anyway,
Martell,
I'm Sam Riddle. I'm the next congressman for the 13th Congressional District.
Martell, you have 2 minutes with your opening remarks.
Thank you. My name is Martell D'Angelo Bivings. I prefer to go by just Bivings to pay homage to my grandfather. And I am running for United States Congress in the 13th Congressional District because I watched everyone, all of the other candidates, get their literature together, get their emails together, get their web pages together. No one was saying anything of substance. No one was saying anything that transitioned us. No one was saying anything that got in the middle of the pelagum, the shift that we're going in. We need better jobs in our district. We need high paying jobs in our district. We need to encourage home ownership. We need to create easier pathways from renting to home ownership. We need to create easier pathways into entrepreneurship and owning your business, support for our existing entrepreneurs. These are things that matter. And as we're going through a paradigm shift in the city of Detroit, how do we ensure that Detroit is a predominantly black city 30 years from now? How do we ensure that Detroit is a predominantly black, strong, middle-class economic city? And those are some of the policies that I want to push while I'm in Washington. Those are policies that I'll craft while I'm in Washington. And, as Sam says, violence is at an all-time high. And I'm a strong advocate and strong supporter for Second Amendment rights. I'm a strong advocate and strong supporter for parents being able to choose where their child goes to school. I'm a strong advocate and strong supporter for economic and equal justice. So those are the things that I'm going to push in Washington, and that is why I got involved in this race. Thank you.
All right. So, Martell, you get the first question, or should I call you Bivings?
Bivings.
All right, Bivings.
Thank
I know
you.
to call you Bivings. Bivings, how would you assess housing needs in the 13th Congressional District, and what strategies do you recommend to improve access to quality, affordable housing?
Quick question. Can I just get by a show of hands how many people are homeowners in the room? So this is a pretty good homeowner room. So I want to continue to support those type of policies, and I want to support policies where we can get renters from renting to homeownership. So I want to have a tax incentive that if there is a person who's renting a house, if they have an easier pathway for that tenant to buy that house, that landlord gets a nice tax incentive so that they can continue that type of program. I want to give tax incentive to first-time homeowners, and then I also want to have a tax incentive program for most of the people in this room, I believe, have probably been owning their home for 10 plus years. So I want to have a tax incentive for those who've owned their home for 10 years and plus. And if they take funds from that year they got that tax incentive and do home repair, there's also tax incentive for the dollars that they spent to fix their homes up.
All right, Sam?
Yeah, very simply put with me. We've been giving away hundreds of millions of dollars in corporate welfare to the Elitches, to the Gilberts, and General Motors undercover. And the point I make is this: we need to have a federal community benefits agreement wherein we will take care of real homeowners in Detroit. The same type of corporate welfare that's being given to these big corporations, homeowners in Detroit, in particular senior citizens, should not have to even pay any property taxes in Detroit.
All right, thank you. Sam, we're going to start with you just as a follow-up question. So how would you use the powers of the federal government to protect tenants from eviction?
Well, first of all, we need rent control in Detroit. We need rent control because right now, given the gentrification trending in Detroit, most rents will price Detroiters, real Detroiters, out of living in a decent unit. We need rent control. We also need the federal government to help fund universal basic income for folks living at or below the poverty line and the working poor to meet the housing needs, to pay their rent. They're going to have to pay something somewhere to someone.
Great, thank you. Bivings, this is the same question for you.
This is where Sam and I disagree. At the federal level, I don't think how my family ascended to wealth and establishment as my grandparents owned about 80 properties in the city of Detroit, all of whom were documented with the city of Detroit. I am not going to get involved in someone being evicted. It's unfortunate, but what happens is as you may know, when you're renting a house, you enter into a contract. That contract is maybe you'll be here for a year or 2 years. There's certain things that you can't do in the property. Maybe you can't have dogs, maybe you can't have cats. It's a host of things that's in that contract. For a landlord to say, I'm going to evict you, there was a reason for that. And for that landlord, that property owner, they have to go through a price. It costs them to evict you. And I'm not going to get away in upward mobility in small businesses. What happens if that's your house and you have a tenant in it that's not paying you rent, or you have a tenant in it that's not abiding by the rules? You want the federal government to get in the way of your income? I'm not going to do that. It is unfortunate. One of the things I do agree with Sam is people will be priced out. I don't know if I agree with like a standard renting price because that's in the way of someone's small business. I'm not going to do that.
I saw that you signaled for a response. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I will never take the side of these greedy landlords. Too many of them are greedy. I mean, everyone doesn't own 80 properties in Detroit. We have an issue with single mothers in Detroit having decent housing. 60% of the children wake up in abject poverty. Let's help them, not the Eliges and the Snyders.
Great, thank you.
So the next question is for Bivings. Over the past few decades, federal and state governments have sharply reduced grants and revenue sharing to U.S. cities, including Detroit, causing an increased reliance on corporate investments and bond financing. What is the role of federal and state government in cities, and what would you do as a 13th congressional district representative to support that role?
Well, from a federal perspective, I would work with all 20 municipality leaderships. We got a councilwoman in the room now from the City Council District 4 Detroit. I would work with her and the mayor and other council people and other mayors and say, what is your agenda? What do you think is needed? And then depending on what committee I'm in and the partnerships I develop in Washington, I would ensure that I got federal funds to support their initiatives. I would make sure we get federal funds so we can increase our CDBG funding. I would make sure we get federal funds to increase our small business and development programs. I would get federal funds for our infrastructure. I would make sure we got federal funds for those sorts of things. And then I would make sure that I put language and caveats to make sure that those local municipalities had to spend them in certain areas and make sure those local municipalities spent those funds in a proper time frame.
Sam?
The problem with that analytically deficient analysis is this. Everyday people in Detroit, again, will be ignored in favor of those that already have bank accounts. We need to address the needs of real human beings in Detroit, where 60% of the children wake up every day in abject poverty. To do that, we need the federal equivalent of a federal community benefits agreement where no federal aid will roll for these businesses unless the businesses are contributing a portion of that benefit to grassroots Detroit and grassroots throughout the 13th congressional district. Sorry, but these suckers have already been getting it, and the have-nots just get more have-nothing.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, Bivings, if you have 30 seconds.
What'd you say?
You have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Oh, perfect. Having money, when I say I'm going to make sure federal funds are coming in, I'm making sure federal comes in to local municipalities, local people, real life, everyday people. To say, hey, we're going to have federal funds come in and we're going to have and the funds go to this potential business, and if this potential business gives it to this community, that's asinine. We cannot expect businesses to fund the upper mobility of communities when the funds can go directly to new businesses. I was a District 4 business liaison, and for 4 years, I helped open up 45 new businesses,
Thank you, Bivings.
many of whom
Your
are
time is up.
African American.
Thank
It
you,
starts
Bivings.
at home. It
We're
starts
going
with
to
local
ask
people.
that you abide by the ground rules. Thank you, Bivings. Sam, you have first dibs on this question. The Bureau of Labor Statistics show inflation increasing over 9% compared to last year, largely caused by the increased cost of housing, food, and gas. How is this impacting residents in the 13th Congressional District, and what should be done about it?
We're hurting. You pull up to the damn gas tank and you got to fill up, you're in trouble. If you're a senior, everything's going up. Gasoline, groceries, everything that you buy is going up, but your Social Security. One of the things I will do is fight to increase Social Security for our seniors. I will also move immediately on the greedy ass oil companies, which are not drilling as much as they could be drilling. I speak from firsthand knowledge. I owned and bought houses in the seven-figure numbers working for oil and gas companies at the top level. They're greedy, and it's not inflation, it's greed. We need to address that and tax them and tax the filthy rich to pay no taxes, like the Jeff Bezos and others, and tax the pharmaceuticals also, and let them engage in profit sharing with the American people, which runs counter to the greedy Republican notion of capitalism that's diametrically opposed to human existence.
Thank you, Sam. Bivings, your question.
I agree with Sam's intro. It's hard out here. I mean, like you said, gas prices, grocery stores, seniors having to go to the grocery store and choose between groceries and medication. That's asinine. But if you take a look, how did we get here? We had a president, this sitting president, when he got in office, he cut us being able to export our oil. He cut us being able to use oil at home. We had a federal issue with formula. We have a Congress and a president that's not thinking prudently. I would make sure that we begin exporting our oil again. I would make sure that we begin using oil at home to begin to reduce our gas prices. I would legalize cannabis at the federal level and take a percentage of the cannabis profits and put it into Social Security so we can begin to ensure that we have Social Security. If we look at some of the tax dollars for every state that has legalized cannabis, it's billions of plus dollars, and that portions of billions could be put into Social Security to begin to release that issue.
All right, thank you. Donna, your question.
The federal minimum wage.
Did I get a rebuttal?
Just to reemphasize what the ground rules are, a rebuttal happens when one of the candidates goes after the other candidate.
Okay.
The federal minimum wage is currently $7.25 an hour. In Michigan, the minimum wage is $9.87 an hour. Do you think these minimum wages are sufficient, and will raising these wages contribute to inflation? Why or why not? Bivings, you go first.
No, I do not think that federal and the state minimum wage is efficient. However, who do we know that's actually being paid the minimum wage? If you know that person, give them my number. They should quit today. It's literally just the idea, the minimum wage. No one is actually paying their employees $7. No one's actually paying their employees $9 because the free market forces you to pay more. So if you know this person is paying you $9 and every other business is paying $15, no one will go work there. So it forces this entity to raise their pay. So if you know someone that's being paying $7 or $9, I promise you, I will have them a job on Monday making at least $15 an hour. It's just the minimum wage. It's not actually what people are being paid.
Sam?
Yeah, but what that tells us is something about the philosophy of governance of this president and this Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Why would you even allow and not fight for a higher minimum wage? Why do we see so many help wanted signs? Why does it take so long to get service? This morning, there's another councilwoman in the room, Councilwoman at Large, Mary Waters, and when we were having breakfast,
I apologize for my councilwoman.
When we were having breakfast this morning at Joe Louis, it takes forever to get served. Good food, but good help, period, is hard to find. Everyone needs to be fighting for a humane living wage, and that reflects more about where these people are, Big Gretch and Sleepy Joe. And I'm a Democrat. I've been a delegate to the National Convention. That's something other Democrats running haven't ever done. I don't know any that have served as a delegate to the National Convention but me. Hell, we got 2 Republicans spending millions of dollars. Olier and Cherie Tanader. That's why he didn't show up.
All right, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. We're gonna come right back.
I get to rebuttal that, right? I get to rebuttal that, right?
They should be running against you.
They should. Actually, they should.
We're gonna move it right along for this, but
Okay.
So, Sam, this question is for you. So we're gonna start with you, rather. So, a University of Michigan study estimates that there are over 38,000 homes in Detroit that are in dangerously poor condition. There are plans underway to rehab and rehabilitate many of those homes, but that's fewer than 10% of those homes. How does the federal government have a responsibility to accelerate, or does the federal government have a responsibility to accelerate home repair for low to moderate income homeowners? And if so, what does that look like?
That's you, Sam.
Sam, that's you.
Oh, well, first of all, there's Kamaya Davis, an 11-month-old black baby girl, stepped into a hole in the floor, fell into a basement, drowned in a basement laden with feces. What a death. Didn't have to happen if the feds, before they allow 1 penny to be granted to the city of Detroit, ensured that there was inspection and rehab of these unfit for human habitation dwelling places. Everyone is entitled to food, clothing, and shelter in America. That's why I've served 4 years in the military. I also graduated from the University of Michigan Law School. I appreciate that they're doing studies, but now they must come to a conclusion and conclude that the federal government shouldn't give a penny to the city of Detroit until the city of Detroit inspects these homes, make sure that they're fit for human habitation, and work with them to bring up to standards for habitation, human habitation, all houses for rent or sale in Detroit. And the 13th Congressional District, more importantly.
Yes. It's hard debating Sam because I really do agree with him on most of his issues. But this is a scary issue here because we know overwhelmingly we have a large population of renters in the city of Detroit. And the city of Detroit, about 2 years ago, they enforced a landlord-tenant ordinance that I got to help edit. And what's scary about that is when the city inspects a home, and for one to be able to rent it out, the home has to be up to code. What happens is when we bring those homes up to code, that landlord is now going to charge you more for rent. That's going to happen. We already know that our residents don't even have the capacity to pay it. So now, where are they going to go? One, and then if we're enforcing this landlord-tenant ordinance across the entire city and we know our population can't afford it, this is almost kind of a push-out. So it's like, this is the unintended consequences of language. So we, on one hand, we want everybody to be able to live well, do well, be in a good household, but we also know they don't have the finances for that. So where do they go? Westland, Taylor, Southfield. They're being pushed. It is a push-out. At the federal level, one of the unique things that we have in Detroit that we don't have in Chicago and New York is that people that are living below the AMI, they're not living in a beautiful brick home in a 2-car garage that was built in the 1850s. They're living in apartments. So I do not think it's the federal government jobs to go around the entire municipality of Detroit and fix up homes. It's feasibly not possible. And if we started depending on the government on every single little thing, if we're fixing up your roof, what else is next?
So we're at time.
Can Sam and I get some more time? It's just Sam and I.
No, but I get a rebuttal, right?
No, I didn't say your name, Sam.
No. So we're moving on. The next question is, we'll start with Bivings. The next question is,
I don't get a rebuttal.
how will you work to address climate change if you're elected to Congress? What is your plan to support unionized workers displaced by the shift to renewable energy? And how can we ensure that new green jobs will be well paid and come with benefits and are created in the most economically distressed areas and communities of color and provide training and opportunities for a new generation of workers? And that question, we're starting with Bivings.
I would make sure that when we have federal funding for green infrastructure and companies are taking those federal fundings, it would be a requirement that they have to hire within the radius that they're building. But then also back to one of my previous answers, the federal government doesn't have to force an entity to pay a certain much. The free market would depend on that. most green infrastructure jobs are coming in, they're paying way above the 20. They have really nice benefit packages. Some of them are even doing $50,000 to $60K annually. They have 401k plans, they have investment plans, they have retirement plans. I know a few of them that are actually coming to Michigan. They have mental health days in addition to traditional off days. So the free market take care of that. And to address the second portion of the question, for the unionized who are being shipped out, training programs. And then we always have this constancy. There are 4 hiring signs throughout the state of Michigan. There are 4 hiring signs throughout the 13th congressional district in different industries that pay the same and similar prices that are also unionized.
Thank you, Sam.
You know, in 1992, I was a resource participant in the first Earth Summit on the Environment held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. First thing we've got to do is acknowledge the reality of climate change. The Republican Party still has its head in the sand about the reality of climate change, much like Donald Trump won the election. He didn't lose. It's that type of mentality that results in high asthmatic rates over in Southwest Detroit. It's the reason this Councilwoman Waters and I marched against the incinerator. And what distinguishes me from the rest of the candidates in the 13th Congressional District is that some of us have been on the streets engaging in direct action on these very issues. Too many people are full of words and no practical experience. You can't talk about the free market unless you've actually had a real job. You've had them. Most of the candidates in my race, the Democratic race, have been feeding at the public trough. They don't know what it is to work in the private sector, have to set management objectives, and have a real job where you're graded on whether or not you're getting the job done. But all I'm saying is climate change is real. We have to address it in terms of how it impacts America's poorest and blackest city, Detroit, and how it impacts the entire 13th Congressional District and brown people in Southwest Detroit, getting the short end of the environmental stick, early death, and suffering.
Thank you, Sam. Next question. The United States, the land of the free, imprisons more people, and especially Black Americans, than any place in the world. Despite several reforms at the state and federal level, the rate of decline in prison population is estimated to be around 1% a year. 2 questions. What more should be done to reduce the prison population, and how would you go about revisiting the policies of the 1994 crime bill? And what should be done to restore full citizenship rights to returning citizens? Sam, you have the first go.
First of all, as one who has been incarcerated, the whole hypocritical piece about returning citizens. Folks pay homage to that with words, but when we look at how people are actually treated once they've been incarcerated, there's a big difference between how a Sam Riddle is treated and how a Martha Stewart is treated. How an Al Taubman, whose name you see at every university in this state, was treated. And how Detroit Red, you knew him as Malcolm X, was treated. The first thing we got to do is cut the Pentagon budget and divide some of those funds into true rehabilitation so we can integrate returning citizens so that they can make a meaningful contribution to society. That can be done. Ask Martha Stewart.
Thank you, Sam. Bivings, your question.
That question goes right back to the 13th Amendment, the same amendment that freed us, enslaved us. As soon as we passed the 13th Amendment, the incarceration of African-American bodies in America increased all the way up until today. I would go back and I would open up the 13th Amendment, I would negate the second portion of that sentence, and it would just be slavery nor involuntary servitude shall be allowed in the United States, period. That would be the first part. The second part is I aggressively want to legalize cannabis at the federal level. And once it's legalized, I want to institute that anyone who had been arrested or incarcerated for cannabis, they are immediate release and their record is cleared of that. And then I also say that, similar to Sam, is once we are, quote unquote, rehabilitating one and they come back into society, they've done their process, they've done their crime, they're done, they're back. Let them go and be flourishing. It shouldn't have to be. I remember the first thing I did with Fox 2, Sam was on there and they introduced Sam as a former inmate. That was out of pocket. It was just like, why are you introducing this man as a former inmate?
Because I started that show with Hugh Perkins. They just never got over it.
Okay, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's good to know. I was shocked that that's how you introduce somebody. You don't introduce nobody as of their past issues or their past thing. This is a new person. It's a new day, and let that person move forward and flourish in America.
All right.
Thank you. Down to your question.
Bivings, this comes to you first. Shelters across the U.S. are reporting a surge in people looking for help, with wait lists doubling or tripling in recent months. At the same time, U.S. cities are cracking down on homeless encampments and criminalizing those who are houseless. While we build the supply of housing available to those without homes, what should we do to address this crisis right now?
I'm sorry, could you? I did not hear.
It seemed like you were kind of mumbling low.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe
Okay.
I need to speak into the microphone.
There
All right,
you go.
Let me do it again. All right. Shelters across the U.S. are reporting a surge in people looking for help, with wait lists doubling or tripling in recent months. At the same time, U.S. cities are cracking down on homeless encampments and criminalizing those who are houseless. While we build the supply of housing available to those without homes, what should we do to address this crisis right now?
This is a hard one. This is a hard question. What should we do we shouldn't be criminalizing and penalizing the homeless. We should be trying to help them get mental health, see what's going on, see where we could find facilities to house them, see if it's just a housing issue or if it's an addition to an employment issue, and see how we can get them back on their feet into residency. I don't agree with criminalizing the homeless.
Yeah, I would say that criminalizing.
Oh, hold on. Were you done with your answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Criminalizing those without housing is wrong, and it demonstrates the need for mental health counseling that make those type of decisions, whether they are elected officials, law enforcement, or serving in the U.S. Congress. It's you that need help when you criminalize homelessness, when you criminalize poverty. And as a veteran, Detroit, for example, in the 13th Congressional District, has consistently been rated by Wallet Hub as the worst city in America for veterans. What a shame. As a veteran, I can tell you, no veteran in America should be without shelter. Food, clothing, and shelter should be available for every American, and especially veterans, and the federal government is uniquely positioned to work with municipalities to provide and build that shelter. And I'm not talking projects here. I'm talking about decent, humane housing fit for human habitation. Do that.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank
Brandon,
you.
your question.
Thanks, Orlando. Sam, for you, so Black women bear a disproportionate share of the college debt crisis, which contributes significantly to wealth inequality and family poverty. So simply, should the federal government forgive student debt? If so, how will you fight to make sure that happens?
Well, first of all, on my literature, it says one of the things that I'll do is fight to forgive all student loans, period. And it definitely impacts communities of color and Black people in particular. I will not marginalize people of African descent, Black people, by using that buzz, phony, progressive term, people of color. I'm talking about Black folks when I'm running. With me, race matters all the damn time, and it's the Black student, former student, that is just disproportionately impacted by student debt and therefore precluded from accumulating wealth. Forgive all student debt.
Great, thank you. Bivings?
It sounds nice. Forgive all student debt. We got a president sitting in the White House who came to this city and said, I'm going to forgive student debt. We have a House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. right now that all ran 2 years ago and said, I'm going to forgive student debt. And what did Joe Biden do when he first got in the White House? He signed an Asian hate bill. Joe Biden is in the White House because Detroit delivered him to the White House, and he got in the White House and signed an Asian hate bill. It's real nice to sit here on the campaign trail and say, forgive student debt, because there's a student in this room right now that's going to be like, oh yeah, let me vote for that person. But how are we going to physically do it? No, I do not. Yes, it sounds nice. I have student debt. Would I love to wake up and not have that $80,000 debt? Yes, but we are a country that has to be ran on a budget. America's in debt now. And every time we just give a dollar out, we go further and further and further in debt. And that debt rolls down to grandchildren, children of the future. So no, when I'm in Congress, I will not support completely forgiving student debt, but I will give tax credits to those who are paying their student debt. You took the loan out, you signed it, cognitively understanding of what you were going to do, and now you can't retreat from that.
Actually, you can. Actually, you can.
Sam,
I've done real
Sam,
I don't
budgetary.
mind Sam responding.
I've done
Hey,
real budgetary work in the state of Colorado with a Republican-controlled legislature based on zero-based analytics. You can do it, but you have to reorder spending priorities. Cut that crazy-ass Pentagon budget. Cut it right now and redistribute that to the people. Forgive the student debt. Reorder your priorities. Stop this war machine.
We had
This
time.
white-on-white
ahead,
crime
Time.
in Ukraine between Russia.
Thank you, Sam.
That's
Go ahead.
white-on-white
Moving on.
crime.
So
Go
now I
ahead,
get
Bivings,
to respond.
Yeah, you respond. Go ahead.
I get this, Ron. So Sam, it sounds nice, but you're not the only person that believes that. You have an entire government right now you have a Democratic House of Representative majority. You have a slim majority in the Senate. You have a president right now. It can be done right now. It could have been done 2 years ago. It's not being done for a reason.
That's why I'm running.
All right, and we are at time. Jennifer,
We're at time.
Sam, you also
we're gonna
Thank you,
ask.
Orlando.
We're gonna ask.
So we're going to move on to the next question.
move
Audience, please
on.
hold your applause. So the next question we're going to start with Bivens. Money in politics. Is money in politics a problem? If so, what should we do about the influx of dark money from 501c4 organizations and super PACs in local and federal elections?
I don't think dark money is a major issue in an election. I'm running for office right now. Sam is running. Sorry for not speaking to you and acknowledging you earlier. You've ran a campaign. You ran a campaign. It costs. That literature that you got in your hand, it costs. The shirt that someone's wearing, it costs. Those billboards that people are wearing, it costs. Those commercials that you see every other second, you can't watch a TV show, it costs. You can't go on YouTube, it costs. You can't go on Tidal, it costs, it costs, it costs. And I'm sure the founding fathers, when they put this together to say you run this, they didn't think it would cost $1 million, $2 million. I'm running as a black Republican in Detroit. If I'm gonna pull this rabbit out the hat, I'm gonna need $8 million to get this done. Every voter I talk to, I have to talk to 8 times. I gotta allocate $2,000 for every single voter. It costs. So I'm taking dark money, light money, red money, your money. I'm taking it all. And when I get to Washington, I'm not gonna change no language that it prevents one from getting in office. Because you might have an amazing candidate. You have an amazing candidate, but you do not see that candidate until a certain amount of money gets behind you so that they can send you a mailer. I cannot walk every single door in the congressional 13th district, so I have to have a mailer. You need to see me 2 times. If I'm running against a Cherie who's sending you mails every single day, I need to send you something every 2 days. It costs. This thing costs. It's real. So no, I'm not against dark money. Come, give me some. There it is.
Well, Bivings, relax. I'm here for you.
Thank you, Sam.
We need public funding of these elections if democracy is to exist. We will not have democracy as long as we don't have public funding for these elections. No one should be allowed to buy a congressional seat because they can run on millions derived from animal abuse. That's blood money, Cherie. You're running on blood money from animal abuse. Plus, you're being funded by this guy's party, in part. Ditto for you, Adam Hollier. Running on money from Republicans and international politics. They're war criminals. I'm the only one in this race that consistently on 910 radio, on TV, branded Bibi Netanyahu a damn war criminal. And he is and remains, and some of the policies of apartheid Israel are acts of war. They're war criminals. And now the American Israeli Political Action Committee is funding Adam Hollier, funding a Texan, Stevens, that's that woman, Haley Stevens, running against a real Jewish person. Yeah, a real Jewish person, Levin and 11. But it's the policies of apartheid Israel and their war criminal leadership that makes this American Israeli Political Action Committee fund Hollier, who said no to Proposal P, yes to N, and you activists should be ashamed of supporting that sucker.
We are at time. Bivings, he addressed you and your party. Would you like 30 seconds to respond?
Oh, yes. It does seem like we have several Democrats who probably agree with Republican principles, but we are in a majority Democratic city, and they feel like they could appease to the people and as Sam would say, try to play them. I'm not that person. I believe in conservative principles. That is why I've aligned myself with this party. And I believe that there's more people in the 13th district that align themselves with my ideals. I just have to talk about it. Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
our final question. Historical and current banking practices are well documented despite fair lending laws and policies and despite community reinvestment oversight. There are fewer bank branches in Detroit than in surrounding communities. Black borrowers are denied more often and charged higher fees, and development projects face greater hurdles in Black communities. What more needs to be done to promote racial justice? And what about reparations? Bivings, this is your question.
First of all, I think reparations that's a hands down. That check is old. It is forthcoming. We were stolen. They stole many property from us here. So that has to happen. And I think my party, the Republican Party, should be the party that gets reparations done. We should finish our work. I think it was my party who pushed out the 40 acres in a mule party, and it was Sam's party who stopped 40 acres in a mule. And had we got 40 acres in a mule back when it was instituted, the Black economics infrastructure in America would have looked a lot differently. In addition to that, I want to give tax incentives to banks and credit unions who place branches in local municipalities, and if they give 51% of their loans to people in that area so that they get houses. I also want to reinvigorate the Detroit mortgage program, which basically says that if you're rehabbing a house that we already know the market doesn't speak to, but the market will catch up to it later, you also be able to get tax incentives if you give loans out to people that's within the area of your branch.
We need to have the federal government, anyone that regulates banking of other financial institutions, they need to aggressively stop the systemic racism that exists in corporate America in these financial institutions. You talked earlier about legalizing cannabis at the federal level. Certainly that should be done, but it can't be done with real effect until the federal banking institutions and other financial institutions regulated by the federal government allow the marijuana industry to simply make deposits and bank. Those that run the industry, the marijuana industry, need to be able to put their money in federally regulated financial institutions. Right now, they're being stuck up more than any other business in America because they've got loads of cash. And people that asked, I remember this white bank robber, they said, "Why do you rob banks?" He said, "That's because where the money is." Why are you robbing these marijuana dispensaries and shops? Because that's where the money is. Open up the federal banking system and let's put it in there. Let's do that, but more importantly, let's regulate and stop this systemic racism. We can do that at the federal level, but you have to have leadership that wants to do that. Current crop of candidates seeking the Democratic nomination are just interested in taking selfies and just pop. That's it.
Thank you, Sam. All right, that's going to wrap up the questions portion of our forum. Candidates will now take 2 minutes for their closing statements in reverse order of the opening statements. So that means, Bivings, you are up first. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Like I said, my name is Martell Bivings, and I believe that there are more people in the 13th Congressional District that want to choose where their child goes to school. I believe there are more people in the 13th District that want to start a business. I believe there are more people in the 13th Congressional District that want to have an easier transition to starting a business. I believe there's more people that need funding and want funding to start a business. I believe there's more people in the 13th Congressional District that want to have an upward mobility and depend on themselves. And I want to craft policy that allows your pursuit of happiness to be more easily obtainable. I do not want to craft policy that's going to say, hey, the government is going to give you this, 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 and this, because we have been getting and seeking from the government for 60 years in the city of Detroit, and where are we? Right where we are. The government is only going to give you enough to stay exactly where you are. The government is not going to give you enough money for you to be a millionaire. It's not going to give you enough money for you to ascend higher. It's going to give you enough to keep you right where you are. I want to craft policy and support language that allows you to tap into your God-given talent to move forward if you like. So I'm asking you to vote for me if you believe in yourself. Thank you.
If you knew anything about Ayn Rand and rugged individualism, that would be your guy right there. I got to tell you something, and that is that, like, I run for Congress. My name is Sam Riddle. When I dropped out of high school, none of my teachers would ever guess that I graduated from Michigan State University. Got a GED, honorable discharge, United States military, Juris Doctor, University of Michigan Law School, worked in the corporate world in the oil and gas industry, was very fortunate and good at that. But let me tell you something. the quality of leadership, the heart of leadership. If you don't have someone going to Congress that's going to fight for these streets, the streets will continue to adopt our children, and our children will continue to run the households, disrespecting their mother, not giving a damn about schools or the law. Street values will destroy us. Black women will continue to die 40% more than white women from breast cancer. I can tell you that because I was a caregiver for this councilwoman when she was going through chemo and a victim of breast cancer. She's a survivor now. All I can say is this: elect me, you'll have a fighter. I'm ready to fight. The issue is, are you ready to vote?
And with that, let's give both of these candidates a hand. Come on, we can do better than that. Let's give both Sam and Bivings a hand. We thank you all so much. This has been your Economic Justice 13th Congressional Candidate Forum. Be sure to vote on Tuesday, August 2nd. We will see you next time. Please meet the candidates and ask away.
And thank you guys. Thank you.
I do want to say that Orlando and I have a podcast, Authentically Detroit, and we have open invitations for either of you or both of you to come on our podcast for a segment prior to the election if you're interested.
Thank you.
So
I'm down to come.
If you are, come see us up here, and we'll try to schedule a time for you to vote, to join us.
All right. Thank y'all.